Dear audience, I am pleased to present my PhD topic about risk factors for pancreatic cancer and share my progress over the past 12 months. My name is Zsófia Román, and I am a nutritional scientist, and currently I'm working as a clinical research administrator at the Institute of Pancreatic Diseases, and I'm also a PhD student. Our vision is to improve the prognosis of pancreatic cancer, saving years of life lost. And to be able to do that, our mission is to explore the association between glucose metabolism alteration and diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. To achieve those goals, I have two ongoing projects. In the first one, we wanted to understand the association between hemoglobin A1C levels and the risk of pancreatic cancer, while my second project focuses on patient characteristics and prognosis between early and late onset pancreatic cancer. So my first project is investigating the effect of hemoglobin A1C level on the onset and risk of pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is predicted to be the second leading cause of cancer-related mortality by 2030. The expected increase in mortality rate can be due to the delayed diagnosis as lack of predictive factor for pancreatic cancer. What is known is that type 2 diabetes mellitus is a risk factor for pancreatic cancer, where 1% will develop pancreatic cancer within 3 years from the diagnosis. However, what is not known is the dose-dependent association of hemoglobin A1C, which is a marker for glucose metabolism, and the risk of pancreatic cancer. Therefore, we wanted to investigate the association of hemoglobin A1C levels and the risk of pancreatic cancer. To analyze this issue, our clinical question is, how do different hemoglobin A1C levels influence the risk of developing pancreatic cancer? We analyzed in the adult population the different levels of hemoglobin A1C, and our preliminary outcome was the risk of pancreatic cancer, and the secondary is the age of onset of pancreatic cancer. And we believed that higher hemoglobin A1C levels increase the risk of pancreatic cancer. We led a systematic search in 3 different online databases with the following search key. The first domain includes the different terms of pancreatic cancer, while the second domain focuses on hemoglobin A1C. During my search, I didn't find any meta-analysis related to this topic. On the right side, you can see the selection process. We started with nearly 9,000 articles, and after the duplicate removal, we had around 7,000, and out of those, we selected 39 eligible ones, and additionally 3 from the citation chaser part. Now I would like to show you my first 2 forest plot. This analysis evaluates the risk of pancreatic cancer in elevated hemoglobin A1C levels as between 6 and 6.4% hemoglobin A1C and above 6.5% hemoglobin A1C levels, and compare those with under 6% of hemoglobin A1C level. All results are adjusted age, sex, smoking, and BMI, and expressed as odds ratios. We included 4 cohort studies for this analysis, and the heterogeneity was high, likely reflecting the different population sample size and characteristics. In the first figure, you can see that the pooled odds ratio was 1.45, indicating a 45% higher risk of developing pancreatic cancer between the range 6 and 6.4% hemoglobin A1C. Although this result is not significant, while we can see a trend toward increased risk of pancreatic cancer in the pre-diabetes range. The next figure, the pooled odds ratio was 2.50, indicating a 2-point-fold increased risk of developing pancreatic cancer above 6.5% hemoglobin A1C. This result is statistically significant and emphasizes a strong relationship between increased risk pancreatic cancer and diabetes range. The next slide, you can see the hazard ratio of pancreatic cancer in hemoglobin A1C below and above 7%. Based on the ADA classification, Hemoglobin A1C more than 7 is considered as diabetic, and less than 7 is non-diabetic. We included here 4 studies, and all adjusted for age, sex, smoking, and alcohol consumption, and BMI. The heterogeneity among the studies was really low. The I-squared was 24%, meaning a consistency effect across the studies. The hazard ratio was 1.99, meaning that patients with more than 7% of hemoglobin A1C had nearly twice risk of developing pancreatic cancer compared to those under 7%. Here you can see the single mean of hemoglobin A1C in type 2 diabetes population across 3 time points, at 24 months, 12 months, and at the time of the pancreatic cancer diagnosis. The heterogeneity is high here as well, based on the different population characteristics. Although we have some variation in the confidence interval, we have a relatively consistent elevated hemoglobin A1C levels may suggest an long-standing abnormality in glucose metabolism may precede pancreatic cancer. And in my last figure, you can see the mean difference of hemoglobin A1C before pancreatic cancer and compared individuals without pancreatic cancer in non-diabetic population. We involved here 3 studies, and with approximately 2,400 pancreatic cancer patients and 108,000 non-pancreatic cancer patients. The mean difference was 0.41, meaning that patients with pancreatic cancer had a higher hemoglobin A1C than a non-pancreatic cancer group. Our analyses have strengths, so we have a large sample size across the studies and focuses both diabetic and non-diabetic population, and we did a unique temporal analysis of hemoglobin A1C levels before pancreatic cancer diagnosis. And also we have a limitation as well, that the different hemoglobin A1C range in the studies, and we have high heterogeneities, and we have a limitation of the measurement of spread, especially in the temporal analysis. In conclusion, the elevated hemoglobin A1C levels are associated with an increased risk of pancreatic cancer, and especially the threshold above 6.5% of hemoglobin A1C, but may begin in the prediabetic range. In type 2 diabetes, poor glycemic control is often present for years before pancreatic cancer diagnosis. As implication for practice, hemoglobin A1C is not only as a diabetic marker, but also as a potential pancreatic cancer risk indicator as well. And patients with elevated hemoglobin A1C level may benefit for closer clinical monitoring. Implication for research that future research should be explored whether combining hemoglobin A1C with other biomarkers and focuses on standardized hemoglobin A1C measurements and follow-up time periods as well. Here you can see my first project progress. I sent my database to the statistician group the end of July, and we aim to establish an incidence rate analysis as well. And we wanted to do, and we would like to do, visualization for the temporal analysis. So my second project is comparing the patient characteristics and natural history for early and late onset pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is becoming an issue. It is still unclear which factor influences the prognosis in relation to age. Pancreatic cancer can categorize into 2 major groups, as early and late onset pancreatic cancer. Early onset pancreatic cancer is defined as pancreatic cancer diagnosed before the age of 50 years, and it has been increasing over the recent years. is typically driven by inherited and lifestyle factors. On the other hand, we have late-onset pancreatic cancer, where typically somatic mutation drive the disease. Therefore, our aim in this study is to understand the characteristics of early-onset pancreatic cancer and how it affects treatment outcomes and overall survival. Related to this project, our clinical question is, what are the characteristics and prognosis of pancreatic cancer associated with early onset? We would like to analyze the adult population, compare those with early and late onset pancreatic cancer, and we would like to see the difference population-based characteristics and prognosis. As for the clinical implication, understanding early onset pancreatic cancer treatment responses could improve our current guideline and potentially screening processes as well. In summary, I have two ongoing projects, both focuses on patient characteristics, and our aim is to know how it affects on the disease. At the end, I would like to quote B.B. King, "The beautiful thing about learning is that no one can take it away from you." Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Do we know anything about the time dependence of elevated hemoglobin A1C and the development of pancreatic cancer? You mentioned that we can diagnose 1% in 1% of the patients after elevated hemoglobin A1C. Whether it is a cause or a consequence of the development of pancreatic cancer, we don't know it. It might help this answer if there is some time dependence. Maybe it's more.
Yes, we involved in our meta-analysis 10 articles with this temporary analysis, but unfortunately the limitation of the measurement spread, we just can involve 5 analyses for the single mean analysis, and although in this those 10 articles, they usually started to measurement the hemoglobin A1C 5 years before the pancreatic cancer developed, and in all 10 articles, they had consistently elevated tendency in the hemoglobin A1C. But what I read in that it usually can notice 3 years before the diagnosis find.
If you go back to your first figure, which is a forest plot, there's an outlier, Lu et al. If you take that out, I would think that it would be immediately statistically significant and clinically significant, the increased odds. So you don't have to do this, maybe you want to do the sensitivity analysis, leave one out method to identify that as an influential study, which is an outlier. What's the reason for them to say higher HbA1c does not increase, or they rather say it's around 0.5? So that's a strange odds ratio. Have you looked at that article and have you thought about what is the explanation for that?
Yeah, the reason probably behind that Liu et al. Have less participants their studies than the rest of us, and yeah, it's we noticed that if they have less patients in analysis, then the results may come different when they have more patients. So this is the reason.
And altogether, we can say the higher your HbA1c, the higher the higher is the risk associated with this HbA1c, can't we? Is this your conclusion? Yeah. Very good one. Thank you very much.